A man adopts 6 unwanted girls, and after 20 years, they return the favor in an incredible way. John was coming from the orphanage where he signed all the papers and come into full guardianship of the sextuplets. They were his adopted daughters now, and he was their father. He liked to think of himself as father, without adopted in it, because he didn't intend to see them for 1 second as separate from him. After a decade, the most unexpected truth about them came out. It was a cold winter night in 1980 when John, a 35-year-old bachelor, heard a faint cry coming from outside his apartment. He opened the door to find a small bundle on his doorstep, a newborn baby girl wrapped in a thin blanket. A note was attached, explaining that her parents could not care for her and were leaving her in the hopes that someone would give her a good home. John's heart broke for the helpless infant. He didn't have much, but he knew he had to help her. He brought her inside, fed and changed her, and vowed to give her the best life he could. Over the next few years, John's apartment became a revolving door for unwanted children. One by one, he welcomed 5 more baby girls into his home, all abandoned by parents who felt they had no other choice. One thing you come to realize as an adoptive parent is how quickly you forget about the adoptive part. It's not something I think about except on a very occasional basis. They're simply my children, no adjective required. With no family of his own and a modest income as a school teacher, John struggled to provide for his growing brood, but he never wavered in his commitment to giving these girls the love and care they deserved. He worked extra jobs, cut corners, and received help from kind neighbors and colleagues. The girls grew up in a house filled with laughter, music, and the sound of pitter-pattering feet. Though they came from different mothers, they were sisters in every way that mattered. John was Daddy, their rock, their protector, and the center of their world, and he loved each of them with a father's fierce devotion. The years passed in a blur. Suddenly, the little girls were young women, graduating from high school and college, falling in love and starting careers. As each one left the nest, John's house grew quieter. He was bursting with pride at their accomplishments, but his heart ached with the empty space they left behind. One by one, the girls came to visit their aging father. They could see the toll the years had taken on him, the gray in his hair, the wrinkles around his eyes, the slight hunch in his shoulders. He was no longer the strong, vibrant man they remembered. The sisters gathered together and hatched a plan. They pooled their resources and bought a beautiful home in the suburbs with a big yard and plenty of room. Then they went to John and made their case. Daddy, you've given us everything. Your whole life has been about making sure we were safe and happy. Now it's our turn to take care of you. We want you to come live with us, all of us together like a real family. You'll never have to worry about anything ever again. At first, John protested. He didn't want to be a burden. But the girls insisted. They wouldn't take no for an answer. So, with a grateful heart, John moved in with his daughters and their families. In the years that followed, John's house was filled with the pitter-patter of little feet once more, the pitter-patter of his grandchildren. He spent his days playing with the kids, telling stories, and teaching them all things that he had taught their mothers. The girls made sure their father wanted for nothing. They cooked his favorite meals, took him on trips, and showered him with the love and affection he had given them so freely. John was the happiest he'd ever been, surrounded by the family he had built from nothing. When John passed away at the age of 85, it was with a smile on his face and a heart full of love. His daughters and grandchildren gathered to say goodbye to the man who had given them everything. They vowed to honor his memory by living their lives to the fullest, by loving each other fiercely, and by always remembering the power of a father's love. Our children are our children, no matter their birth origins. Flesh and blood is the flesh and blood of humankind, of which we are all a part. Every day, our amazing children, who look nothing like us, reflect our fragile humanity back to us in many ways. They make our lives richer. They make life worth living. I love them wholly and completely, and would die for them without a thought.